Hi everyone, and today I'm going to be talking about the transit of Neptune, which you can see here in Pisces, being exactly square the nodes, both the north and the south nodes. So you can see that indicated on the diagram here as well, that we've got Neptune at 90 degrees to the axis, that is the nodal axis. So Neptune's over here and you've got the axis of the nodes. So I wanted to talk to you about that today because I think it's a very significant transit that's coming up on the 26th of January. And rather than do some tarot to go with that, this time around I'm just going to talk about it and take you through what it might mean for you. And hopefully you can look at your chart and listen into the relevant parts. So before we get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what is all this symbolism meaning, how long is this transit lasting, and things like that. So first of all, this transit is not just happening on Tuesday. It is already happening and has been happening and will continue to be occurring for most of the year, but this is the peak. So what you listen to today, some of it should already be appearing, or the energy around that you're already experiencing for yourself. So let's take a look. Neptune in Pisces, first of all. So Neptune is in its own sign and has been and will be for quite a while longer. So what does that sort of mean? It just means like a real double dose of this sort of energy. So what does that mean? It can mean that there's a lot of feeling of detachment, potentially a lot of confusion, perhaps a little bit of feeling deluded, feeling like you want to escape, or that you want to hide, or that you don't really want to be in touch with reality. You don't like reality anymore and you'd rather live in the world of your own imagination. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's sort of the negative side. The positive side is feeling a great connectedness, not with reality, but with a spiritual component to your life, whether that be something traditionally religious or something that is personally meaningful for you spiritually. Your higher self, it could be becoming more psychic, it could be starting to channel, could be anything that is really putting you into these higher dimensions. So being out of reality of this world is not always a bad thing. It can mean that you are accessing higher planes. It just depends on how you're, like, in which phase of your experience of Neptune you are. Between the two phases of how you're feeling about the 3D and moving to being more spiritual with Neptune, there's obviously a moment where there's a sense of real meaninglessness, and that can be something that is truly representative of Neptune as well. So you might be feeling, or have been feeling, or might always feel, depending on what's happening in your own chart, just a sense of meaninglessness and a little bit lost as to where to go next. So I would say that that is probably the most common theme and energy for the transit of Neptune through Pisces. So when we look at it in terms of the nodes, then let's talk about the nodal axis. So the nodal axis changes every 18 months roughly, and currently the south node is in Sagittarius and the north node is in Gemini. Okay, and only last year, I mean, this has been a more recent change, because for most of last year it was on the Capricorn and Cancer axis, and so it goes around and is changing. As it changes, what is brought up for the consensus for all of us to examine is the themes of that axis. So the themes of that axis of Sagittarius and Gemini, in Sagittarius being the south node, we're looking at our past and our conditioning from the past in regards to things to do with belief and truth, also to do with meaning. also to do with culture, and our intuition, and how do we know what we really know. Who do we trust? Do we trust our inner knowing? Do we trust so-called experts? All of these sorts of things. It's around those issues. And the North Node is in Gemini. So the shift of these 18 months is around moving from this sort of perhaps intuition only, or being very stuck in your beliefs, or being very stuck to your truth without necessarily being able to explain why, and moving more towards a Gemini curiosity and openness, an openness for learning, for exchanging ideas with other people, for learning a wide variety of different things, and for integrating your own version of anything that you might think of in terms of how you construct knowledge and the way that you put together your mental perceptions of the world. So it's really about taking all of this and then putting it together and weaving it into something that means something for you. So to make learning and knowledge and communication a little bit more personal. So those are the themes, and where does Neptune come into that? Neptune's fogginess and confusion and meaninglessness, and we're talking in the negative aspects here more because of the block it's creating. When you have a planet in your natal chart or otherwise, like during a transit, where it's forming this 90-degree angle to the nodal axis, it's creating an obstacle or a blockage of some kind in terms of your progress, and this is for all of us, of course, right now, your progress from the South Node to the North Node, in terms of letting go of some of that past energy and bringing into your life the new. So what we're going to do is take this around the 12 houses just to brainstorm a few ideas of how that might be happening for you. Of course, the more that you have any planets or angles already on this 18, 19 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini, and anything where Pisces is as well, anything Pisces, Virgo, along the same 19 degrees, the more that you will be experiencing this. And I think that's why I have been, because I have my own Neptune almost at this exact point, really, really close, which means I'm coming up to my first Neptune square, as people of my age do. I'll let you research what that is. And then I also have my Venus in Gemini at about the same degree. Not to mention that I have also my Saturn kind of almost opposite where Neptune is now also. So I have a lot of that energy, which is probably why I've chosen to talk about this with you. But let's jump right in and talk about if your Neptune is in, like if right now for you, Neptune is in Pisces in the first house, what is that sort of indicating here? So like, what is the block? First of all, where are you sort of moving from? You're moving from discarding the way in which you let other people be the authority on your beliefs. Okay, that might be your family, it could be literally like your father, it could be the rigidity of school, society, anything that has made you think and believe in a certain way. This 18 months is about leaving that behind and moving towards a Gemini way of having, like in terms of your knowledge, is going to come from also something like closer to home. You could even say that. But you could also say just integrating information that resonates with your emotions, or using your emotions as part of the way in which you integrate what is really true for you. So it's using really your emotions as more of a point of communication and less of what you've been told, what society has said, and those sorts of things. Now, the block or the obstacle is happening in your first house. So there's something about how you perceive yourself and your identity, and the way in which perhaps you're feeling confused about it, or you're feeling there's just sort of a sense of meaningless to your life direction at this time, and you're not sure how to reach this sort of Gemini way in the fourth house of using your emotions to guide you into integrating together your own truth. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight. Do let me know in the comments if you are experiencing that for yourself, or if that resonates at all. So I think we'll move on now to the next house. So I'll just move this around on the chart. And what if you're Pisces? So this is really my sort of way that I'm experiencing it now. This is my sort of placement here with you have Pisces in the second house, and Neptune is there, and your south and your north node are in the 11th and the 5th house. So beliefs around, so the south node, beliefs around your uniqueness, your ability to contribute, what you should contribute, which part of your talents is what the world needs, and making your dreams come true, all your sort of beliefs about that, wherever they come from, they are to be examined and let go, or the ones that don't serve you anyway, let go, so that you can come into your 5th house of ultimate self-expression and creativity in a way that you will communicate with the world, or communicate in some way. So it might literally mean writing, or some way, you know, starting to express yourself through teaching or something like that. But the problem is here, or the block, is when it comes to this, what does this second house mean? It is being confused about how any of that aligns with your values, or which aligns with your values. What choice should you make? Because you're not sure. You're not sure where you will get your sense of meaning from, in terms of what this contribution is that you're going to make. How will it look? How will you know which self-expression is the one that will give you meaning and align with your values, while at the same time being something that other people need and contribute, and you can contribute to as well. It might also be some sort of confusion, meaninglessness, feeling, just a general feeling of being lost around of those choices, which one will also be able to become your income as well. So those sorts of themes, and for sure that's really, those questions for me are definitely being triggered right now. So let's move around to the 3rd house. So if you have your Neptune in the 3rd house, then most likely, and again, this is not actually going to be for everyone, because your house I've put here to have equal house sizes, but it might not be exactly right for you. So I'm just doing what will probably be for the majority, but hopefully you get something out of it anyway, when especially you think about your Neptune placement. If we look at it like this, this again gives an extra dose of Pisces energy, because we have our Neptune in Pisces and the south node in the 12th house. So we're really looking at exposing, but also releasing and surrendering and letting go of all these beliefs and thought patterns that are not serving us. So that is what the south node is really asking you to examine, and that's what's being brought up, so that you can move to the north node of having a 6th house of, I mean, that can be many things, but whatever those beliefs are that you need to release and surrender and that are keeping you captive. You want to move into a more grounded, but also a more a mind that is not so trapped in all these thoughts. So a clear mind, an analytical mind, a discerning mind, a mind that can determine what you should be learning, what you should be talking about, where you should be putting all your mental focus in a way that will then contribute to your health, your everyday well-being, the smooth running of the routines of your life, and these sorts of things. So it's really a purification that can happen of the mind. But the block is in the third house, which again is this block of a fogginess of the mind. So actually getting there in this axis is quite difficult, because you have that situation where already, like this Pisces in third house, it's difficult to really access what you want to say. It's difficult to have a mental focus that is very clear at this time in particular. So perhaps it is more that as you go to speak, you cannot say the words you want to say. As you try to put a sentence together or complete a thought, there's some fogginess around that. And that is preventing you from reaching those things we mentioned for the North Node, and really being able to concentrate on your thoughts and see which ones aren't serving you in the first place. Okay, let's move on now to Neptune in the fourth house. So if we have a look at that, then that means we'll have the Nodal Axis, as you can see here, coming into the 1st and the 7th. So beliefs about yourself, what you believe to be true about yourself, whether you believe it or most likely it's come from other influences in your life. It's time to be examining how you have those limiting beliefs about who you are, so that you can move towards a more balanced integration within your relationships. So of course, if your beliefs about yourself are skewed, if you don't have the right perception of that, if it's something to do with your cultural identity, your religious identity, or any sort of identity that you might have, which is overlaid with from beliefs and culture and things like that, they are not letting you really integrate your true self into your relationships, and those relationships are therefore most likely unbalanced. You're not able to really communicate in a balanced way, which is of course not just speaking but also listening. This is where you're heading towards developing this more balanced way of give and take in relationships, and then integrating yourself, your true self, really into your relationships. The obstacle or the fogginess and confusion that is occurring is happening in the 4th house. So with this placement, I mean, anyway, like if your Pisces is in the 4th house, you most likely have quite a lot of, you have a strong emotional life. And that emotional life might be very instinctual, but you don't necessarily, are not very, depends where you are on your journey. Perhaps you aren't really so aware of it. It's just sort of happening in the background. It's just how you are. You're just flowing with your emotions. So of course, if that's happening, then that is affecting the way that you are able to really, because your feelings are coming first. And so if you're confused about how you're feeling, if it's not clear like what your feelings are really telling you, then bringing your emotions as a powerful force, as a powerful form of communication into your relationships, while also letting go of the parts about yourself that are holding you back, that's obviously going to be a bit of a challenging thing. Okay, So we move now to when Neptune enters the 5th house, and so you have the South Node in the 2nd house. So here we can be looking at a situation where the beliefs that you have about that are tied to what you value and the way that you make money and the way that you are self-sufficient, there's something about those beliefs that are not serving you around those things. Whichever the beliefs are that you are being asked to examine and reframe, then this is all for the purpose of being able to more deeply commit to your mind in many ways, but to integrate together and to learn, to study, to read about, to talk about, to communicate about all the things that truly matter, that you truly want to commit to, that you truly believe can transform your life and can create the depth in your life that you crave. Until you analyze your beliefs on how the beliefs about being practical versus who you really want to be in your mind and the way you present yourself in those things that are psychologically deep and important to you, there's obviously that balance between them and that difficulty there. And the block of movement is happening here in the 5th house, and it's some confusion or meaninglessness about expressing yourself and being able to really be seen, to feel special, to what should you create, how should you show yourself to the world, what sort of courage do you need, all of those sorts of energies. So if you think about that, if you're trying to analyze your beliefs, the beliefs that don't serve you about how you make money or how you're very practical or how you are, the values you have in your life, and you want to leave those behind, if the block is a confusion over how to really express yourself and what you really want to create, if that block's there, you're just bouncing back and forth between those 2 points. Being able to find a higher reason for how you create what you create, how you're emotionally connected to what you create, how you feel it expresses your deepest self, will enable you to move towards this total integration of the things that deeply matter to you. So you can see that for all of these placements, the block swings you back and forth between the Neptune and the South Node and won't let you push forward to the North Node. Taking a look now, if we have Neptune in the 6th house and the Nodal Axis in the 3rd and the 9th. So these are sort of in opposite energies in many ways here. But what we have is your South Node is in the 3rd house in Sagittarius. So the beliefs that you're examining are around things to do with what you believe about your intellect, what you believe about how it is that you gather information, what's the right way to do that, what's the right way to know anything, whether perhaps your curiosity is a little bit stifled, these sorts of things. And what you want to be moving towards is a mindset that is able to integrate together what your truth is, but to integrate many truths and to be okay with that, rather than being stuck in one way of believing or one way, like holding on to your own rather than sort of expanding what you're learning. That's what you ultimately want to do. So it's really as I said, it's the opposite energies, as in the North Node is Gemini, but in the 9th, so the Sagittarius house, and so on. So this can be that sort of conflict that you're feeling, but it is beliefs around how you might be a little bit mentally closed. Like, why is that? Which beliefs are making you a little bit mentally closed? And how can you move towards a more expansive mental approach to your life? Now, with Neptune in the 6th house, there is in many ways like a fogginess over the mind, because the 6th house is that Virgo energy, which in itself can already give you, it's quite mentally acute. But with Pisces there, again, it creates an overlay of potentially a sort of fog there. So already there's that aspect. The block might be just an inability to be really analytical and to be able to think through from A to Z what is going on in your life. It can be that the block is happening in your work. So like this ability to move might be actually something that is occurring in your work life. It could be something else. It could be something like your inner critic, you know, so your inner critic is really erratic and confused, but also very powerful. And it's really creating this extra layer of fog over your ability to think through what your beliefs are, to even notice which are your closed beliefs, because your inner critic wants to hold on to those, of course, which then is blocking that ability to move to the more expansive integration, an expansive way of integrating knowledge and ideas and philosophies from everywhere. Okay, so let's move this around. I wanted to do every 10 minutes so that I can move more easily, but I don't know if that's working so well. Anyway. Okay, so we have the 7th house here. So the axis that we're looking at here, the 4th and the 10th. So we're looking at beliefs around perhaps family, beliefs around emotional security, beliefs and truth around like the feminine, about even gender identity, any of these sorts of things. And there is some way that your beliefs about your family, or your beliefs about how your emotional well-being operates, or just the role of your emotions in your life, that is holding you back, when in these 18 months you want to be moving towards becoming really the authority, or restoring the integrity to the way that you integrate together your adult life, which might be in your career. So it could be something, beliefs from family, in some way stopping you or preventing you from accessing the way that you really want to integrate what your career and achievements will look like, or the way that you will want to be able to communicate to the public. It could be something like that. It could be some sort of emotional undertone, and how that then relates to what you believe to be true. Obviously, your emotions are telling you what you believe to be true, but of course you can change that. But those things can be holding you back from what we were just talking about. So this sort of ability to have a career or have a role in the public, or to pursue achievements that are around things to do with speaking or learning or teaching or any of those things. There's that interplay there. And the biggest block to that is because of, at the moment, the Pisces in the 7th house energy. Now, there's something about in your relationships, in your one-to-one relationships, there is potentially a real confusion in your communication anyway. So things get lost in translation, let's say. That would be a very Neptune in Pisces thing. So things are getting lost in translation between you and your partner, between you and other people in general during these one-to-one conversations. Or you feel like you're kind of somehow a little bit lost, a little bit disillusioned, a little bit detached from some of these relationships. And that's causing you to be really stuck to these emotional beliefs anyway. Like it keeps, you know, you keep going back to there. Whereas if you could feel more connected to your needs and feel more connected to the way that there's the reciprocal interplay, you know, with you and your relationships of meeting your needs, and if you could see a sort of a more spiritual dimension to your relationships, as in they are mirrors, they are teaching you something. There is, you know, they reveal things to you. Or if you could see your relationships from the point of view of your higher self, or if you saw your relationships as a way of becoming more spiritual, or any of these sorts of things, all of that emotional heaviness of your truth and beliefs can be released and surrendered so that you can move towards that higher expression of Neptune and into who you truly want to be in the world, especially with regards to communication, communicating that, or teaching that, or getting the word out about the thing that is inside of you that you most want to contribute. Okay, let's take that around now to the 8th house. So here we have the South Node, North Node on the 5th and the 11th. So beliefs around your creativity, beliefs around whether you're special or not, or whether other people think you're special, or whether you'll ever be acknowledged as being particularly talented, beliefs around your own courage, beliefs around just your ability to really be unique and be able to express that, need to be examined and how to look at there. Because what we're moving towards during this time is looking at a way to integrate your talents together in a way that can, first of all, make your dreams come true, so you can really pursue your dreams, but also so that you can really contribute your talents to humanity in some way. That doesn't need to be on a large scale, just in any way. It can be just locally, but anything that you could consider a contribution of your talents for the good of other people in some way. Of course, if you can't let go of these beliefs that are holding back your self-expression, then that's going to be difficult to reach that North Node. Now, with your Neptune in the 8th house, the block is around a real fear of, there's like fear, you have trust issues, there's confusion about who you can trust, there's confusion and a feeling of just like disconnectedness, and you're feeling a little bit suspicious and that sort of thing. So, and you also are feeling a little bit disconnected from your own psychology. You're feeling a little bit scared, afraid, and alone of knowing yourself deeply. Can be multi-layered like this, any of those sorts of things. So if we take that last example then of having this fear of really going into your own depth, then that is an obvious block of how you won't be able to get from your own creative self-expression into a higher contribution for others. Whereas if it's something to do with these sort of trust issues, then your ability, like, so perhaps you do see yourself as very special and unique, which obviously can be a good thing, but it can go to the other extreme of being somewhat narcissistic. On whatever level of that scale it might be, if you are having an inability to trust and you don't know who to trust and feel confused about that, then when it comes to the 11th house, being able to talk to people on an equal footing, being able to be one who is unique, but within another group of everybody in that group is also in their own way unique, or being able to really like speak up and speak your mind in friendships. All of those things are going to be problematic. So this is the energy you're working with here. Okay, we'll take it around now to the 9th house. Okay, which moves the nodal axis into the 6th and the 12th, with the south node in the 6th. So what we're looking at here is beliefs around, I mean, these can really be beliefs about if you're good enough. In essence, it's the having a belief that perhaps you're not good enough, or perhaps other people aren't good enough. I mean, it can go both ways. These sorts of beliefs about being good enough or not obviously affect all aspects of your life, and that's the 6th house can be very much just about your everyday life. But at the core of it, if your beliefs are about not being good enough, or other people aren't good enough for you, that is going to affect the flow of everything else. Such that being able to access this north node, which is going to be about being able to perhaps be in real communion and communication with, well, either the largest populace ever, like being able to really put yourself out there, or whether it will be communicating with the divine, or it might be about receiving spiritual information, learning about your spiritual self, having ideas about the spiritual. You can't be on that plane if you're stuck in just thinking about yourself and about worrying about other people and having a lot of anxiety about what's going on here on earth. You've got to be thinking, you've got to be free of that. And free of the hold that has on you to move to this higher expression. And what is holding back that whole process comes in here with Neptune in the 9th house. And the way that might be being experienced is really a very deep sense of meaninglessness, because the 9th house, of course, we're talking a lot about Sagittarius today, is about belief and truth anyway. And if your beliefs are somewhat foggy, you can't access them, you don't really know what you believe, you feel a bit lost in the world of your own beliefs, you're not able to jump that gate to get to the next thing, which is really like spiritual and higher powers and higher understandings. You'll really be stuck in this thinking about yourself and thinking about the concerns of your everyday life and how they're affecting you, and it's going to cause that a block. So releasing truths about how you're not worthy or other people are not good enough in some way, not measuring up to your standards, releasing all those, letting those go, so that you can access a higher point of view about truth, a higher point of view, a more spiritual point of view about what we're all here to learn, what your intuition is telling you. Accessing all those things will allow you to make that leap into learning about and communing with and having a relationship, a mental, but any sort of relationship with this, your spiritual self and a higher point of view of the world, and really solve this meaninglessness problem. Okay, let's take it into the 10th house now. Moving, I mean, of course, once again, we're on the 1st and the 7th axis for the nodal axis, but the opposite way around. So this time here, we're looking at the south node in the 7th. So there's beliefs about how your relationship should be, how the give and take in your relationship should be, how you think they are, whether your relationships are very truthful, how you think relationships should be culturally, or the cultural influence on relationships. All of those things are things to be considered, because something about that is holding you back. And it's holding you back from really learning about who you are. You're focused here on your relationships and studying those without first having a good solid foundation on yourself, learning about who you are, being really independent, being just who you want to be, and worrying about where you want to go, and integrating together all the different parts of yourself into the most holistic version of yourself. And the obstacle in the way is Neptune in the 10th house, which is creating this sort of confusion and feeling of being lost, or being secluded in some way from things to do with where authority is coming from, rules and restrictions and society in general. Any of those things seem hard for you to access right now. You're not sure what's going on with those sorts of things. You're not sure about what the way that the rules of society are. I mean, obviously we're in a very particular situation right now. You're confused about what you think about those, or you're confused about how you should be in those, or you're feeling like the way that you're being locked away in society. I mean, that is happening to us right now. The way that society is sort of locking you away is really bringing out a sense of a meaninglessness in you. But that meaninglessness is coming back to what's happening in your relationships. So you're coming up against these beliefs in your relationships because of the meaningless you're feeling, perhaps because of being locked away. Like, it could very literally be that with your personal experience right now. So being able to have a more of just feeling more connected in your world, or building like a adult relationship with your spirituality, or sort of reparenting your spiritual side, could all go a long way towards helping you move away from your relationships. It'll give you a spiritual foundation, can give you a firmer basis from which you could then be really starting to communicate to the world who you are, being sort of integrate together all the different parts of yourself in a way that you're more truly yourself, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on in your relationships. Okay, so let's go around now, nearly there, to the 11th house. So we have here the South Node in the 8th house. So there's beliefs about trust, beliefs about how you keep yourself safe, like what your boundaries should be, about whether people are, beliefs about the ways that people might be manipulating you, beliefs about abuse that you think you're experiencing. I mean, you could be. I'm not saying it's all in your mind. I'm just talking about the themes. Beliefs about change, very heavily, could be like beliefs about change and how scary that is, and beliefs about being pushed out of your comfort zone that are holding you back. They're holding you back from becoming this sort of second house energy of becoming really self-sufficient, aligning with your values, being able to integrate together what you truly value, what it truly means to be safe, the way that like your mind can piece together a way to make sure that you are self-sufficient, learning about how to be self-sufficient, communicating in a way that reflects your values, instead of, you know, thinking that you have to communicate in a different way because you don't want to expose your own values. So it's really about consolidating and integrating together what you value and the way that in this world you can rely completely on yourself, and which doesn't mean you have to be alone, but being able to rely on yourself to keep yourself safe. But you're feeling like the changes that are happening, or your belief about change, or your belief about the way that your boundaries are ever changing, or your beliefs about your own psychology, or whatever it might be, or your beliefs just about people and how they treat you, that they're all blocking you from being able to feel very safe and secure in yourself, and to integrate together this life of really feeling quite whole and nurtured and really, you know, strongly self-sufficient. And that's really strongly connected with your mind as well. Now, the main block is coming from, at the moment, from the 11th house. So there perhaps has been, or there is some confusion over, for example, your friendships and the way they're going, or a meaninglessness about ever having your dreams come true, a meaninglessness or a confusion or a fog about whether you can really make this contribution that's really important to you. But what it's all about is being able to see from a higher perspective and to take a more a spiritual viewpoint, a more we are all one viewpoint of the way, take a higher viewpoint of the way that these things work, the way that your dreams come true, connecting with spirit on those things, or having, you know, we are all one and the same, we are all connected, as a way of seeing your friendships, because then you'll be able to release a lot of these beliefs around how other people are treating you, or about what the change in your life means, etc. I mean, all of these are different phrases. You piece them together in the way that the themes are presenting for you, of course. So if you can do all that, if you can take this, like friendships, your dreams, what you want to contribute, if you can take from a higher point of view, then you can move towards a more mentally strong place of self-sufficiency, safety, what your values are. You don't have to worry about all that background noise, even though it doesn't feel like background noise. It feels very challenging and dark, but you can move away from that towards the intention for these 18 months. Okay, and let's move on now to the last house. Okay, so we have the South Node in Sagittarius, 9th house, so matching energies instead of opposite this time, and then the North Node Gemini in its own house, the 3rd house, and Pisces, of course, in its own house, the 12th. So the South Node here, it's just a double up of all the things we really were talking about at the very beginning. So it's your beliefs, it's your truth, it's your cultural beliefs, your religious beliefs, beliefs inherited from your family, your culture of origin, things like that are holding you back. And they're holding you back from the 3rd house. They're holding you back from saying the things that you want to say, learning the things that you want to learn, having the mental approach to life that is most stimulating for you, most interesting for you, most engaging for you. It's blocking your curiosity and all these sorts of things. And this block and this difficulty moving from one to the other is occurring in the 12th house, which is really, I would say in this case, it's feeling very disconnected from God. It's feeling like there is no point to this universe, feeling a deep sense of despair and meaninglessness about what is the point of all of this, which is keeping you away from this curiosity, from wanting to learn, from wanting to use your mind to explore. You just go, this is all pointless and meaningless. And so you go back to being stuck in those beliefs that make you believe that everything is pointless and meaningless, and is giving you this sense of despair. So finding something that could be spiritually significant for you, some way to connect with whatever spirit means for you, can liberate you from these beliefs that are holding you back and move you towards feeling curious and energetic again, and wanting to learn and know and explore and use your mind in a way that ignites some passion in you. Okay, so that's been all 12 houses. I hope that you enjoyed that, you got something out of it. If you have any insights you'd like to share, please do let me know in the comments. Consider liking and subscribing, and forwarding to a friend if you think they might be interested in this transit as well, or if you recognize that what's going on in their lives right now might actually be because of this transit, or they are feeling the energy of the transit and need a little bit of help of how to work with that. So I'll be back again on Monday with the next video in the series that I'm looking at about evolutionary astrology, what it's all about, how you get started with reading your chart from that point of view. So I'll see you then. Okay, thanks everyone.